Good afternoon. Welcome on this beautiful, beautiful day. I'm Giovanni Singleton, Lunch Poems Coordinator, and thank you all for being here today. First, I'd like to invite you to sign up on our email list, which is over on the librarian's desk. Also on our website, lunchpoems.berkeley.edu, you can view this reading and our past readings as webcasts on our very own YouTube channel. So please do check us out. Next month, on March 1st, join us for a reading by poet and translator Rosa Akala. So do please come back and join us. Now, welcome Lunch Poems Director Jeffrey G. O'Brien, who will introduce today's guest, T.C. Tolbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni, and welcome all of you, and especially T.C. Tolbert, who we're really happy to have all the way from Tucson. And T.C. is still actively Poet Laureate of Tucson? Yes. All right. I want to talk a little bit about the last full volume of TC's with the incredible title Gafiromania, which is not an invented word, it's an actual word. And it means a kind of obsession or love for bridges. And I think there are many good reasons why that's sitting on the front of this book. I think it's a way of thinking about betweenness and thinking about betweenness as its own form of sturdiness. And I think thinking about an infrastructural solidity to betweenness is important for all of the kinds of certain uncertainties that are crucial to poetry and that are crucial to selving. And all of those things matter to TC. When you open the book to the first poem, you encounter a shift in orientation from what you expect, right? It begins landscape and then will shift back to portrait. And that way of thinking about unsettling expectation, about producing motion between expectations and across dispositions on the page is an introduction to what's going to happen all throughout the volume at the level of syntax, at the level of content, at the level of expression. I wanted to read one stanza from a poem called What Space Faith Can Occupy, the first one. I believe that witness is a magnitude of vulnerability, that when I say love, what I mean is not a feeling, nor a promise of a feeling. I believe in attention. My love for you is a monolith of try. And I hear many things there, but among them I hear and see a kind of part of speech alchemy, right? Where try is not a verb, but a noun, right? And it's in relation to monolith. And there's that sturdy structural solidity of effort rather than of things that I think is crucial to TC's poetics. But also that short sentence, I believe in attention. This is a poet of extreme attention and a poet who has faith in attention's ability to destroy categories and emerge from them with actual features and attributes that are particular and emphatically particular and present. I'd also say that TC is a poet of attention in another way. Wallace Stevens called the poem the cry of its occasion, but I think for TC, the poem and the performance of the poem is the attention of its occasion and the attention to occasion. I've never seen a poet who's more sensitive to room, to the people populating it, to everything that's happening outside of this room in history as the poetry reading transpires. An incredible, expansive sense of attention. It's not only on the page, it's not only in the body, it's in history, and it's in all of us gathered here together today. Please help me in welcoming T.C. Tolbert.
I'm going to talk in just a minute, but I'm going to start with a poem. And I just changed my whole reading based on that, so I've got to find the poem. Do you hate your body? Do not go, and do not go, and do not wonder. Having placed a bird, a common thrush, here in front of you, I believe only that the sand is relentless, which is to say, the bird is an apology. What we once called pause, we now call whole. Poor bird. Bevy, murmuration, or otherwise. You may never skitter on the water like a rock. You may never splinter in our jaws like a bird. So, thank you to both of you. Giovanni's work has been teaching me and lifting me for years. And then last summer, she was so gracious with all the administrative needs of getting me here. And so now she's a hero on a new level. So can we give her and Jeffrey a huge round of applause for what they do to make this happen? So I'm transgender, and what that means is the bastion of masculinity you see before you was enhanced by testosterone, and I say that because I want to share. And my work is addressing my transition. It's also addressing, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and physical abuse. And I grew up in the South. Damn it. Right? It's like the trifecta. And I love Tennessee. But anyway, and I grew up Pentecostal, so speaking in tongues. And all of those things have made me, and I'm finally at a place where I'm thankful for my life, and I've begun to write poems to Melissa. Melissa was my birth name, is my birth name, and I'm sharing that with you not because I want you to call me Melissa. I don't. I want you to call me TC, but. I want to invite you during this reading to say out loud, when you feel moved, "Dear Melissa," because the things that I'm going to read are to her. They're bringing her here, and they are thanking her for what she made possible for me, TC, now. Y'all feel good about that? Okay. Oh, I want to share one more thing. I think this will be helpful. I mentioned growing up Pentecostal. My mom used to say to me, "I wish you'd never been born." And she said it enough that it stuck. And then I came out, and that was a problem. And then I started to transition, and she threatened to commit suicide. And she didn't, thank goodness. And then a couple years later, she came to Tucson. And we were hanging out, and she was actually really cool. I mean, my mom's actually really cool, despite these terrible things I've just told you. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. But she's, like all of us, done some really shitty things. So anyway, so she was really cool. And I said to her, "What happened to you?" And she said, "You know, I have to tell you, all your life, I have been praying for God to change you." And when she said that, my first thought was, this is not going very well. I take the question back. And then she said, "But you know, I realized I've been praying the wrong prayer. And I need to pray for God to change me." And so, as I said, she's one of my favorite people on the planet for that reason, because because she knew when she got it wrong. And that to me is love. Dear Melissa, on each body is carried the shape of its absence, the uncontrollable mourning, a hammock overturned by the wind, bird shit, which implies beauty but is not beautiful in itself, now on both sides of the cloth. How does it feel to not want? I want a woman's body that isn't afraid of me, my back against whatever is stronger, a pillow, a table, the hood of a car. I want to lift and be spread out, a blanket on the deck, the earth turning at 1,000 miles per hour, 18 miles a second, hurtling through space. I want to be held to the ground, a bird after it has been a bird against a window. I want what any woman wants, a body she can sleep in, my own, sheets pushed to the side. A gray horse painted on the side of a building, holy to be caught, abandoned, inside the self, every neck and back muscle quivering. My white face over my white face, who would not crack if they needed to. The shell of a walnut with the heel of a boot. Where I'm from, every white person I know owns a gun. The molded metal cage of that air conditioner on the front porch isn't something to be ashamed of. Little girls' legs are spread. You have to. It's for your own good. A bite from a deer tick can be deadly. It rains a lot here. Water just stands on the road. Mirror neurons invite us to feel empathy for other human beings and often encourage us to smile when someone else is smiling. The idea is that this prevents us from hurting further those who have already been touched. Ferdinand Ambach visited New Zealand from Hungary. In December 2007, the 32-year-old went to a bar and met 69-year-old Ronald James Brown. We can never take it personally. None of it. I let a person strangle me once during sex, not because I liked it, I don't, but because on the other side of the wall is a bench. Some days, it's easy to feel decadent. On the way back to Brown's apartment, Brown confessed to playing the banjo. Ambach, a diving instructor, understood the importance of breath. Scientists used to believe it was the ability to use tools that separated us from other animals. Now the difference is fourfold. Surface tension allows objects heavier than water, such as paper clips and spiders, to distribute their weight and therefore feel supported by something they don't ever have to love. Gay panic is still a legal defense. Ambach beat Brown with a red instrument. In the average human body, there are approximately 12 pounds of blood. The theory of creative destruction posits that even widespread societal gain always produces losses for some. When it was sufficiently broken, Ambach shoved the neck of the banjo down the old man's throat. Excess is a practical concern. Oxygen is only one kind of touch. What I want is not to be full of his body, my father's hardness, fantasy, from the Greek, fantasia, to picture oneself, related to feignen, to show, bring light. Seeing bones all over the yard, the dogs with their empty mouths begin to relax. A hole is all I hope to own. The hunger of an hour, repeating the shape of my mother in the window. The hunger of cut flowers drinking water drawn on cut glass. I want to know love, something other than insistence. I should have died, what we all lost to my body. I wish you had been, I wish you had never been born. Word problem. As a child, X favored in temperament, mannerisms, and embodiment the mother. As an adult, X is the spitting image, a bastardization of the phrase spit and image of the father. If miracle and mirror share the same root, who must X forgive? And who did X kill first? X's body is covered with 8% psoriasis, 11% tattoos, 23% fat, and 62% hair. If X is a man, how much of his body is livable? If X is a woman, who covered her body with shame? On Monday, X ate a banana with peanut butter for breakfast, a Cliff Bar for lunch, and 4 pieces of fudge and 2 Reese's Cups for dinner. On Tuesday, X hiked 10 miles and ate Greek yogurt with fresh fruit, cashews, an apple, a Cliff Bar, and pasta. On Wednesday, X started the day with red velvet cake. If food addiction is twice as likely in women who experienced physical or sexual abuse before 18, is X a woman or a man? Melissa, I love the fully inflated tire upright in gravel near the car. The finches threaten one another simply through the act of moving close. I long to meet who I most fear, my mother and her body in mine. Tracing the boy, I see his mother, her hand outlined under us both. Word problem. A flower in the yard is 3 to 5 feet tall. Everything about its body is reaching, pink and purple petals shooting out of a collar of finger-like seed pods. To the north is a 48-year-old pine tree, to the west is a black walnut, and to its south is an even older white oak. X loves this game. The operators on the healthcare exchange all say, "Yes, ma'am." X is not injured, but believes certain words are a protection from injury. What are names? Yes or no? Melissa, I don't have to go anywhere today. I move to make the birds move. The gate is inside of me. I am holding it open with a rock. Word problem. The mother X maid is disappearing. There are no coat closets big enough. For love, X would subtract X and become something else. If bodies like X's body have been seen, is X now visible? If histories like X's history have been told, has X survived? If chests like X's chest have been cut, has X been cut? If genitals like X's genitals have been touched, has X been loved? If skin like X's skin has been valued, has X been protected? If hands like X's hands have clasped a throat, has X been choked? Melissa, I wish you your mother once told you. Mother of your childhood, even though water is water weary. What is prayer, if not quiet, who has made me? What hands you become when you touch. Who laid down on whose body, whose face and whose shoulders were shaking? What will I not hear when I look back at you? Who is not the mother of a daughter, who is not the mother of a man? We are right to be afraid of our bodies. Wind is carried by what is upright and still moves what had been buried deep enough in the ground to be called roots. When will this be the world where you stop? Whatever broke into you was torn by the contact. A face wears a face it can see. What is alive is unrecognizable. Need it be? Who is my mother, mother? No one. Who hasn't killed herself by growing into someone? I'm sorry you have never been born. Because here, roughly here is what breaks from our breathing. Here is the blade of our breath. If I eat an apple, I will almost certainly stop thinking about my father. Research confirms that happiness levels are independent of circumstances. The asshole who wins the lottery will still be an asshole. My father isn't a bad man, but he didn't make it to the top of the mountain. Breathing at sea level is easy. This isn't a metaphor. When 100% of the atmosphere is above you, the air weighs 14.7 pounds per square inch. The traumatic, by definition, resists absorption. S killed himself by replacing oxygen with nitrogen. Everything was neater than it should have been. A knot ties two ends of a rope together or connects the end of one rope back onto itself. Someone, sometimes I think, sexually abused my sister and me when we were little kids. Cheyne-Stokes is a type of breathing common at altitude. It happens when a climber is sleeping or has just laid down to rest. It begins with shallow breaths and then increases to sighing respirations. Breathing may stop for just a few seconds. It's considered normal to wake suddenly to the feeling of suffocation. Today is Father's Day. Suicide is more common at altitude. What I wanted was not to breathe, but to be breathing. What I wanted was for everything to stop, but not end. Thank you.